So, Briony, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today.
Thanks for having me. It's so nice to be here.
I'm excited to be talking to you as a video expert on podcast. Both of us, it's a bit weird, right?
It's like a space-time continuum. We're bending the rules of the universe.
Oh, we're going against everything we do in our day-to-day. So I think that's really where I want to start. I obviously know you through business connections. We've got on like a house on fire from like understanding our backgrounds in video. But tell us a bit about you, your background, and all Briony before you launched your book.
Yes. Well, I mean, I went off to uni and studied a commerce degree to begin with, Beck. And I thought, I don't know if the world of high finance is for me. I mean, probably should have gone and pursued a finance career, become the Wolf of Wall Street. But alas, I thought, no, I really am passionate about creating impact and change. And I think the best way I can do that is through telling stories. And I've always worked on the basis that I think most people are good at heart. You know, we actually, as different and polarized as the world can seem, we actually all really want the same things. We want to be loved. We want beautiful, clean air and clean water and, a lot of the same things. And I thought, I think people, for the most part, are good people at heart, but they might just be busy, overwhelmed, stressed in day-to-day life. But if I can make communications and pieces of info that make complex things easier to understand and comprehend and give people an easy access point, that's really what I wanted to go and do. So I went and did a film degree after my commerce degree. And
I love that. Well, that makes one of us with a film degree.
Yeah, well, in hindsight, I'd say to a lot of people, if you're really passionate, you don't need a film degree to work in the film industry. Just go and start working. But yeah, sorry, Beck, the aircon's just come on. Can you hear that okay in the background?
No, I can't hear it at all.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, so I embarked on a 3-year film degree and spent the whole uni years making content for change. I made a kids television series set in a magical treehouse. It was all about saving the world and videos on renewable energy and climate. And through that work, I met a bunch of people, working in campaigning and working in environmental orgs. And that led to sort of my first jobs in the industry.
I love that. So it's always for you, it's been entrenched in that storytelling with a cause and a purpose to drive impact and change, essentially.
Absolutely. And I think for me, going through uni when, the internet and YouTube channels, I mean, TikTok wasn't around then, Instagram wasn't really either, but we were just starting to see these sort of viral video makers, appearing on YouTube. And it really captivated me. I thought, how do you create something that can reach that many people? I just saw the power in that to be really exciting, and I wanted to learn how to do it, basically. And so
you've done it, right? Like, you have the title of viral video producer.
It took a while to figure it out, but I think you can't predict what's ever going to go viral, but I think there are a lot of conditions that you can build into your concepts and your ideas that will help it go viral. Yeah, so that's what I became really passionate about, is how do you create a story that people will want to share for you because it speaks for them, or it says something that they couldn't put into words or articulate otherwise, and they will share your message. Because, the only way to go viral is to create something that people will share for you. It's a bit like the COVID of the digital world, isn't it? You want something that's going to really be catchy and transfer through people.
I love that analogy. That's brilliant. Viral videos are like COVID for the digital world. I think that might be our tag for the show today. Brilliant. But you sort of took that from uni and those campaigns and those storytellings, and then obviously you've had quite a career in that space and moved into working for MamaMia. How did that come about?
Yeah, I did. So my first job in Sydney was working for a production company that worked for sort of all of the purpose-led groups in the space, really. We worked for groups like the Climate Council and Get Up and the World Wildlife Fund. And so I made some really amazing connections doing that work, and I really loved what I was doing. And then I came up with the idea to pitch to the ABC a documentary about young women in domestic violence, but I wanted to do it, once again, using humor is always my thing. It's a bit risque in that category, going, I'm going to have a comedian host this documentary to go on an exploration about, what she should have done to help a friend that was in need at one point. And, that went really well. And then off the back of that, this job came up as executive producer of video at MamaMia. And I remember looking at it and just thinking, I think I would be perfect for this job. Like, I probably am going to have to talk my way into it because, but who does, what is experience in video creation and digital these days? It's so varied.
So varied.
Yeah. And so I just thought, I'm going to just go into there with a vision of what I think I could do for them in video, and like sell them on a really compelling vision that I'm really passionate about, because I thought, well, I feel like I can see where they want to take video, not what they're doing right now. So I did that and landed that role, which was just an amazing job, because it meant I suddenly had a team of 4 to 5 amazing video producers that I was working with. And any idea that we came up with, we could just do and get made that day, So
right, having that.
Yeah. And it was like being in a video lab, like a viral video lab, because they really just let us play and have a lot of control over what we wanted to make. And I think 6 weeks in, I made a video with the team that went viral. I was in it because we couldn't afford talent. So all of the producers started acting in things.
Yeah, like we all do. All have been there where we've jumped in and been someone in one or two of the videos we've made. Yeah.
So we did a video that, went up on Facebook, and it did about 20 million views in 2 days. And so after that, they were just very much like, all right, you guys just play and do whatever you want for the next 2 years. So we did that. It was really fun.
I love that. And it is a lot of fun to be able to do that. And I just wish I had your creativity on it, right? My head's very much a business. I can teach you how to create the videos, but from a content perspective, your spin on that is just mind-boggling to me, and it's really cool. So
that's so lovely. I wish I had your brain on my head. Then we can merge brains.
Dream team. But I want to then take that from MamaMia, and you're making videos and creating that out there, and then the biggest whirlwind of happened for you, and life was completely turned upside down when you got your cancer diagnosis. You did something that I don't know if I would even think of doing. You turned cameras on yourself and documented your whole journey in doing that. Like, what was going through your mind at that point when you were trying to protect and understand things yourself, yet you still put the cameras on yourself? Can you walk me through that?
Yes. Well, so I'd been working at MamaMia for about 18 months. And for most of that time, I felt pretty rotten, pretty awful. And I kept going back to the doctor over and over again. And they kept saying, oh, you're just stressed, learn to meditate, chill, blah, blah, blah. And it was actually my parents who were just so concerned about some of my symptoms, particularly the fact I had night sweats. I had this cough that just wouldn't go away. I had itchy skin from time to time. But all of these things are actually symptoms of lymphoma when you put them all together. So I literally had every symptom in the book other than a big lump that was visible, because all of my swollen lymph glands were in my chest. So they were hidden. Yeah. And it doesn't really show up on a blood test until very late stages. It's a really tricky thing to diagnose, but I was really unwell by the time I got diagnosed. It was stage 4. Yeah. And so I remember that first day was probably one of the hardest days of the entire thing, because it's just such a shock and it just keeps hitting you in waves. You forget for 5 minutes and you're just reading something or, chatting to someone, and then it hits you again like, oh my God, I've got cancer and I'm going to have to start chemotherapy in like 2 days before Christmas, And my friend at the time just said to me, I think if you can, you should really start documenting the journey, like from today. And I just said, I really don't want to. It's the last thing I feel like doing, to be honest. And he really encouraged me again and said, no, I just really think you should. Why don't you just go up to your room and just have some time to sit and put it down. And so I did. And I got my mobile phone out and I just sat by myself in my room and I just shared all my first thoughts on that first day. And and that's actually the video that I ended up putting together. It culminated in a video called You Only Get One Life. But that very first shot is of that first night. And then my friends all pulled together and they got me like a little gimbal and a little microphone to add to my iPhone, so that wherever I went I could just be really nimble and film things. And then it was a lot of encouragement from friends and family to keep going with it. I think there were weeks where I didn't film and mum would say, oh, keep filming, keep doing it. So I definitely got some nudges along the way. But I think in time, ultimately, in one way, like, video is in my nature, it's in my DNA, and it was a nice distraction in some ways, but I think it was also quite therapeutic. Like, I was a big journaler through chemo and through my experience of cancer, and this was really a form of video journaling, and it allowed me just to get it out and speak it out loud. And it's interesting, I did a podcast recently with my mum. It's a mothers and daughters podcast, and mum shared with me things that I'd never heard her say to me. And one of them was, she just said, it wasn't until I watched your video that I realized sort of the depths of the pain that you had been in, because you just very much kept that from us, or you tried to protect us from your pain. So really, those moments where I was by myself and I could just let it out. And I'm so glad I did it in hindsight, because it's powerful to go back and watch it and just see where you were and how far you've come, because you forget what it was like. But there's nothing like video, is there, to really document the experience.
And did you, with that and sort of sharing that, and obviously it's been therapeutic for you to do that, and I am without doubt knowledgeable that it's helped a lot of people in watching that, and the rippling impact that's going to have on individuals and their families as they go through similar journeys is huge. Did you sit and edit that video yourself? Did you go through it all? Did you have help with it? And at which point did you start putting the video together? Did it bring up old trauma? Like, how did you pull the video together at the end?
Yeah, it's a great question. So my work wife, I call her Claire, the gorgeous Claire from MamaMia, and we'd been creative collaborators on all of the videos that we made at MamaMia. And I asked her if she would edit it, basically. So I gave her all the footage. She's a brilliant editor, brilliant producer, brilliant writer. So what I did is I actually, just one day, I found the track of music that's on the video. Mm-hmm. And I just had this idea, because I was like, I want to do something with all this footage. Do I make a doco? What do I do? And then I was like, no, short form viral is my thing. That's what I've always loved. And if I can tell this story in 2 or 3 minutes, why do I want to tell it in 30? I just want to get it out, And I didn't want to be sitting marinating in it for a year. And I thought that's how long it would take if we we're going to edit a really big thing, and I'd probably need to get funding. And so I just found that track and I put it on, and I sat there and just probably played it on repeat 20 times. And I just had a big, big cry, and I just wrote the script out, and that's how it came out. And then I gave it to Claire. She edited it down because she's like, this is awesome. Now I'm going to cut it in half, which is normally what she does with, any script I write, because I use way too many words, and she's an excellent script editor. And then from there, she kept asking me to go through the footage and pick out some selects. And a few months after me still not having done that, she's like, oh, I realize now that you don't want to do that. Like, it's too hard at this point. And I said, yeah. So she just went off and did it all for me. And she did say, like, it was as a friend as well. It was a bit harrowing, I think, for her. So it was something she thought she'd just knock out in a day or two.
Yeah.
And then she realized she could only really do it in hour or 2 hour chunks, because it was a bit heavy for her as well, as someone who loves me. Yeah. And she just did the most beautiful job putting it all together. Yeah. And then we showed it to Mia, basically, Mia Freeman, the head of MamaMia, when I was back. And she was just so supportive, and straight away just said, oh my gosh, this is so beautiful. Let's put it out on MamaMia. How can I share it? And, thanks to Mia, it went up on the MamaMia platform. It went out on her channels, and it went viral as a result. So that's when one of the people that saw it was a publisher who reached out and said, oh, I'd love to talk to you about turning this into a helpful book for people going through something similar.
Yeah. And the book itself is phenomenal. I'm going to bring it up on the camera.
Oh, you've got it there.
When I have a thing where if I, I've got beautiful friends like yourself that write most incredible books, and I read all of them. Like,
Oh,
cover to
that's so
cover.
lovely.
I love it. And I love that yours sits so brightly on the shelf. So, the video has spiraled, like went viral. You've got that book deal now. What was it like writing that book? So your book's called Life is Tough, But So Are You, which cracking title. Absolutely love it. What was that process like in taking that journey? Obviously, for anyone listening right now, you have got through the journey. You're out the other side, and fit and healthy. Would we say?
Look, I've been struggling for about 4 years now, Beck, to be honest, with chronic fatigue, and it comes and goes in waves, and it's just one of those things. A lot of people get it after chemo, and it's incredibly frustrating because you're on the one side going, I'm here, I should be grateful to be alive, but like, will I ever feel normal again? But I must say, in the last 2 weeks, I've been feeling really good. So I think it's all up from here. That's my current mindset.
I love that mindset. That's what we all need right now.
but yeah, I like the process of writing the book. It was funny. My publisher Kelly, when she reached out from Murdoch Books, I just hit it off with her straight away. When you just have a heart connection with someone straight away. And I was like, oh, I love you. I want you to be my publisher. And the team at Murdoch Books was so supportive. And it was funny. I just feel like I'd thought about it so much. I had been journaling so much through chemo, which I think really was the thing that unlocked my love of writing again. I loved writing at school. And then I somewhere along the line got in my head that I'm not a writer and I can't write and I'm too slow and, it's not my forte. And I just never had done it really since high school, even though English was my favorite subject at school. I loved writing. So I think, and also just having someone have such confidence in you. She just said, I think everyone can write a book, and I think there's a book in you, and I think this would just be such a helpful book to put out into the world. And I must say, when I sat down to write it, I got some great advice from a friend of mine who's a really successful author, Henry Carroll. He wrote this book series called Read This If You Want to Take Great Photographs series. So it's like, he sold hundreds of thousands of books. He's amazing. And he just said to me, start with a book proposal, because it helps you get really clear on what you want to write. And he said, because writing a book is a lot of work and it's really hard. So you want to write the book that you really want to write, not the book that a publisher wants you to write. And so going through that process of writing the proposal was so helpful because it really clarified what I wanted to do. But I wrote down every chapter and I wrote every subheading, and then I wrote a paragraph for each subheading. So by the time I'd actually finished my proposal, it was a lot longer than what a normal book proposal should probably be, but I had like 10,000 words written already. So it gave me a great starting point to then write the book. And when I actually sat down to write it, honestly, I just couldn't write it fast enough. It was like it was just flooding out of me. I just had so much I wanted to say, and I was so clear on what I wanted to say. And yeah, it's funny because I was thinking the other day, my next book, it's going to be a lot of research, and, I'm going to have to really, read a lot and think a lot. Whereas I feel like the other one just sort of came from me. And my friend said, you think it's going to be harder than the research you had to do for book one? I thought, yeah, actually, good point. Yeah.
That was big research.
That was intense research. So.
Intense. And so, you've written this book based on your experience going through your cancer journey. You launched it mid-COVID. I don't know, was it year one of the pandemic?
Yeah, it was just 6 months ago, I suppose, like August last year. So yeah.
What was that like? And I'm asking that from a two-pronged question, right? So you've got the book title, Life is Tough, But So Are You. And I love Mia's quote on the front that says, this is a book everyone needs to read when life takes an unexpected turn. Now, as much as a cancer diagnosis is going to turn anyone's world upside down, the world itself has turned upside down with COVID. So did the book end up being bigger than you thought it would be because of COVID and the pandemic and when you had to launch it?
Look, it's one of those things that when I was writing it, I wrote it in the first wave of lockdown, and I thought, by the time this book comes out, COVID will be a distant memory. the pandemic will be over, and I've probably sort of missed the moment really, in terms of this being helpful to people during the pandemic, having no idea that the book would launch just as Australia went into its third wave. Melbourne, who's experienced, Victoria, who's experienced one of the harshest lockdowns in the world, going back into another lockdown. And literally the pre-orders for the book started arriving on people's doorstep the day of like the third lockdown. And people, I think, as much as I would have loved to have had a nice book launch with my friends and family and, done that down in Sydney, really, I think the book ended up in people's hands when it was needed and when it was really helpful. And having people reach out that were really struggling during the pandemic saying, this book has helped me so much, because whilst this is a book about my cancer journey, really, I wrote it for anyone going through any kind of challenging time, because really the steps are all the same, right? Finding the acceptance, breaking it down and thinking about the next few steps, allowing yourself to feel how you feel, not having to be Pollyanna and force this sort of positive mindset, but also then how do you find the joy in the darkness? How do you get through it? These are all really universal themes that apply to all of our lives. And so, yeah, it's been like, honestly, the biggest honor of my life to hear from people who the book has touched and helped in really difficult times. I had a beautiful lady reach out the other day, her brother, who, is 25 years old, just out of nowhere, just dropped dead. They have no idea why. It was just one of those random, difficult, unfortunate things of life. And she just said, this has just helped so much. And so, yeah, it's been the most meaningful, impactful thing I've done so far, I think, in terms of hearing from those individuals.
That's huge. That gives me goosebumps, hearing stories like that, and knowing that it's gone so far must be an incredible feeling. I can see it in your, I can hear it in your voice as you're talking about it. The words aren't there to describe what the meaning of it for you. I would say, like, in terms of listening to it and the impact that it's having on the world is almost, I don't know, the word unfathomable comes like to my mind in terms of like the ripple effects that it's
yes. Well, it's so lovely, isn't it? It's that thing about scale. Like, weirdly enough, my word for the year last year, and I hadn't even been thinking about it in relation to the book, was scale, like just a really random word of the year. And I hadn't really thought about it as related to the book, but I've been connected with a lot of people through Instagram, and I help them one-on-one and text them back and forward, people that have newly been diagnosed. But being able to just give someone a book and go, here's everything that I would want to say to you and everything that helped me, like, here it all is such an awesome thing. Which, yeah, so I've really loved that thing of being able to be like, rather than just helping one person, one-on-one on Instagram, here's like thousands of people that can now, get access to some part of it.
Yeah, I love that. And where can people find this book? Is it available everywhere?
It is, yeah. Yeah. Like, I mean, I always say, firstly, if you have a bookstore you love, go support your local bookstore. And if they don't have it, ask them to order it in, because, bookstores and like all small businesses have done it really tough during this pandemic. And then after that, you can get it at all big bookstores and, your Kmart, Target, Big W, they all stock it as well. So yeah, everywhere. You can get it everywhere.
Your book's gone viral. It's not just Briony, thank you. I've absolutely loved deep diving into this, and we could deep dive into more of it. But I like to keep podcast episodes short and sweet because I'm
snappy.
conscious of people's time, and there's always different chapters we can deep dive into. So I'm hoping when the next exciting thing happens, which we can't talk about, and I really want to, we'll be back on, and we can deep dive into that a bit more. Where can people find you?
Yeah, I mean, on the grams where I spend way too much time on Instagram. So Briony, BRIONY _Benjamin. You can find me there. And or on my website, brionybenjamin.com. There's lots of like good freebies there to, feel good freebies to pick you up when you're feeling a bit flat, and, some inspirational postcards, all sorts of things you can download. But thank you for having me on, Beck, because speaking of resilience, and someone who I look to who, inspires me all the time is you, like you've been, you're an amazing, amazing character in my life, and someone who's been through so much. And yeah, you just astound me with your positivity, your energy, your courage. And, yeah, just the way you have taken what you've been dealt in life and turned it into your superpower. It's really amazing.
Thank you. That fills my heart with so much joy to hear you say that. That means a lot. Thank you so much.
Oh, pleasure.
Until next time, lovely lady. Thank you so much. And thanks for listening, everyone. See you next time.